this so that we can serve those who might come late. Give those who are thinking breakfast a few more minutes, so feel free to speak. Very warm welcome to all of you. A very good morning once again to all of you. We wish Hope to make what we believe will be one of the shortest media briefings actually has ever done. Because it's a subject that we brushed on the last time we were here. That the macroeconomic environment is not sustainable the way it was. The turbulence was not sustainable. The prices in the markets, that is exchange rate and interest rates, were not headed in a direction that could be supported by macroeconomic environment. And it appears when we thought that correction would take about 3 months, and we'll see it in the first quarter, it appears the correction was faster than we ever thought. And when you look at the interest rates, which has been the biggest challenge, they seem to be correcting very, very fast. And this is what we were predicting. We can see the turbulence started in July when we saw the interest rates start jumping by 200 basis points, with 90 days jumping with 300 basis points. And then it peaked very fast after September, and we ended up with 22% rate of interest on treasury bills. And this is what caused a very significant scare in the banking industry, simply because the liability side, the deposits, started asking for the same rates. Depositors were saying, if I could buy treasury bills at 22, why should I give banks money, term deposit, core deposit, fixed deposit at a lower rate than 22%? And that replacing of the liability forced the banks to adjust. As you were aware, on 15th of last month, October, when we looked at this, we promised we will adjust our interest rates to match with the treasury bills and have interest rates that would allow arbitrage between the rates we were charging and the interest rates that treasury bills were offering, because that is not tenable in the marketplace. So on 20th of last month, we gave a 1 month notice to our customers that we will increase interest rates. And the increase was fairly significant because treasury bills had jumped significantly. The last time we had our interest rates, they were tied with treasury bills of 14 and 11. And so going to 26 meant an additional 6 percentage points, or 600 basis points. And interest rates, of course, that we gave a notice of interest rates that ranged all the way to 24 from 16. We're happy today to say that following this correction in the interest rates, we want to withdraw that notice that we gave to our customers before it becomes effective. It was due to become effective on 19th of November, but we want to withdraw or technically cancel that notice so that our customers retain the old interest rates that they have been used to. The installments remains the same. The periods for the loans remain the same. And we are very confident that if the trend then continues, we can see even better days in days to come. So basically, that has strongly been informed by the belief that these high interest rates were not sustainable and were not terrible. So we don't want to change the structure of loans. We don't want, now that the interest rates have come down, and primarily the reason why we were increasing the interest rates was because the treasury bills had gone up, and primarily also because we believe the fundamentals of the microeconomic environment portend stable microeconomic environment. When whichever driver of microeconomic environment you look, they give an underlying stable environment. And I want to take just a few minutes just to say why we are confident. And we have been bold enough to withdraw that result is because, as we stated earlier when we were releasing our results, we never believed the high interest rates would hold for long. So if we look at, move on to, we see the exchange rate, which had accelerated, has now calmed down. And there are many questions about what is driving this. But this is best understood when you look relative to other countries. The Kenya shilling, yes, has lost 12% against global, the US dollar, but it has appreciated against the regional currencies significantly. 10% against Tanzania and 12% against Uganda. And so the question one wonders is whether 12% depreciation of the Kenyan shilling is bad. Because what it means, if you look at this slide, is our two big export markets, we are no longer as competitive as we used to do. Our exports to Uganda, our export to Tanzania has gone up by 10%. And the question is, will Ugandans and Tanzanians continue? So I have no quarrel with the current exchange rate, because if we strengthen the Kenya shillings, we lose our competitiveness in our major export markets, principally Uganda and Tanzania, the two major export markets, because that appreciation affects loss of competitiveness because our exports to those two markets are. We have also seen that Kenya, and we see from the graphs, the exports are increasing because a shilling at 102 seems to be much better for exporters. The tea farmers, for instance, the coffee farmers, the dairy product exporters, the floriculture exporters are getting much, much more. And that is good, particularly for. So essentially, we are convinced that Equity Bank, that exchange rate is not a big challenge. We're also convinced, if we move on to the next slide, that if you look at foreign trade imbalance, then it is at one of the best positions we could be at. If you look at imports, they have stabilized. If you look at trade exports, they're improving, they're increasing at a high of 164 billion the third quarter. And consequently, the trade balance is improving. Again, showing there is no underlying pressure on exchange rates. So again, we are, and if you look even deeper into the next slide, and look at total exports, look at what is happening to the exports. there is incentive to export more, much more. And that is good for this country now to reduce that deficit even further that we have seen. So, and this is what convinces us that there is no pressure on the underlying pressure on the exchange rate. So the exchange rate will be being driven by global market conditions as opposed to local conditions. If we look at the next, look at the three for exports, or tea, horticulture, and coffee. Again, we're saying yes, these commodities have not shown any significant movement. Don't look at August, July, because that's not a complete quarter. It's only 2 months. So let's not give the impression that there is a decline. It's simply because we haven't got data for 3 months. But again, you could see the value of export again is supported, and then can support the currency. And if we move even further and look at composition again of import, this is the most important slide, that capital goods have become a significant component of our imports. And this is a country in transition. It's not consumer goods, it's capital goods that are becoming a major component of our import. And that maybe is reflecting a transition happening within the economy that might be very good for future days, because it means production. The country slowly is going into a production cycle other than exporting commodities. If we move on, let's look at this. The value of imports are dropping. Well, the value of exports are increasing. This can be very well explained by commodity prices. And this gives the country a huge opportunity to invest in infrastructure. It means that we are not fully utilizing the capacity of the country in terms of imports, because we are paying less than we have paid in the past for our imports. So instead of creating that position, let's say of 600 billion shillings, it might be very worth for the country to consider continuing to invest in things like the standard gauge, power generation, simply because of that massive capacity. There's been debate, can the country continue to afford this project? But this is the best slide to show what capacity this country has to be able to complete those projects. Because our imports, despite the standard gauge railway line, despite the geothermal plants that we are building, despite the massive investment at the ports and airports, we are still paying less for our imports, and that's really a very. But this is very well explained by the commodity prices. This is the reason why our imports are going down. The commodity prices have literally collapsed. And Kenya has a window of opportunity to take advantage of these low prices, not just in oil, because oil you can't stop, but turn to other commodities like iron ore and build the standard gauge line when almost iron ore is free. You're paying almost nothing. This is the time for the country to build even the pipeline. All steel projects, bridges need to be done when these commodities are low. Despite and take advantage of these low prices and the 600 billion window of lower import bill, to use that 600 billion wisely and utilize the potential of this. So we can see the economy is likely to achieve stability. That's why we are confident we can lower the interest rate, remove the increase in interest rate, because we believe it was a shock, but was temporary. Again, import cover is at 4.4 as opposed to the minimum of 4 months cover, again showing there is no pressure on these currencies. So it's on this basis, even when you look at the balance of trade, when you put all the factors together, including diaspora remittances and the capital account, before capital account, the balance of trade in Kenya is improving, and the deficit in balance of is continuing to decline significantly. And Kenya then can afford to do this. These are the facts that we have really considered in terms of looking at the prospects. Even the number of tourism seems to be driving. When you look at inflation, it's still stable. Following maybe the October reduction of oil shillings, the harvesting of cereals, we expect inflation again to be back to where it was by when it is announced, I think, today or tomorrow. It will be much lower than it is. And then lastly, these fast-growing regional economies, we need to take advantage of them and continue to export. And that's why we are convinced that a strengthening Kenya shilling may not be appropriate at the moment, because it will make us less competitive in these rapidly growing economies. And again, so essentially, those are the fundamentals that have convinced us that we could sustain the old interest rates, fail to increase the interest rates, and continue hopefully. The ability side will now quickly adjust, because the customers who were demanding 22% now can only demand as high as the interest rates on treasury bills. The alternative they have is treasury bills. So if there is no pressure on us, then there is nothing that we need to pass to the clients. And we felt we could absorb comfortably the higher interest for the period to date without impairing performance of the bank. So this repeat to the customer, we hope will trigger customers going back to their plans and borrowing to continue to actualize their business dreams. So we are hoping we'll see customers with bigger projects approaching the bank with interest rates. We hope we will be able to, given that we have a huge 89 billion shillings of cash holding, we hope that it will be compensated by increased volume now that we are not increasing interest rates as we had proposed. And we want to express our gratitude to the government for the speed at which it has surprised us of managing to obtain interest rate on treasury bills, which had really caused a pricing on the ability side. So in a nutshell, customers will say, I know people will ask me, what is the interest rate? Remember, as I said, interest rates in the equity bank are risky priced. So almost now, every customer is having their own interest rate. So basically what we are saying is customers will continue to pay the interest rates. But if we looked at weighted average, if we were to look at what the weighted average interest rates of the bank would be, although that doesn't reflect an individual borrowing rate that we are withdrawing, are proposed to increase weighted average interest rate to 20.4. So in principle, we are giving customers a relief of nearly 300 basis points in interest rates. We are coming back and hoping that if government continues to manage the microeconomic environment, we will go back hopefully to our long-term established interest rates. So again, that interest rates that we're talking about of 17 borrowing, that's the weighted average rate, and each customer has their individual risk-based lending rates. So how would this compare with the treasury bills? Because one might ask, how does, and we can see the spike. The interest rates of equity are completely tied to the microeconomic environment. And we can see when interest rates were stable, the interest rates of equity were completely stable. When interest rates moved from 10% to 12%, then we increased by 1 percentage point. When the government, the treasury bills increased from 16 to 22, we proposed to increase from 17 to 20. And now that the treasury bills have come down, we have decided to withdraw the notice of increase. So if you look at this graph I put for what one would call transparency, so that we really are talking about factual things. So we would be worried if the government doesn't continue to lower interest rates, because again, we would be treating customers as having the same risk like the government. It's good to look at 90 days, but 90, we're going to do 3 months rating. That is 3 months rating. The average rating of the bank is 3.6 years. So it's closer to the 5-year treasury bills, and that is what guides the interest rate in the bank. The weighted average is comparable to the 5-year treasury bill. I said this because sometimes banks have said, we don't know how you charge. This is the formula that banks charge, and I said this because we really like to be as transparent to our customers as we could ever be, to show how pricing is aligned. And the correlation between the microeconomic environment and the interest rates. The microeconomic environment determines what the cost of deposits are, and consequently the cost of loans. I don't know, Elizabeth, is there anything else I haven't said about credit, that interest rates that you would like to have? Okay, very good. So I think that's a communication that maybe I can see a couple of suggestions. I hope it's not questions, but suggestions on our question for that matter. We have been given the mic.
Thank you. Just once, looking at the next 6 months, because I know in October you had advised you can slow down and get into it. Looking at the next 6 months, is there a chance that this might be recovered just for future planning?
We are fully convinced that we can achieve stable microeconomic prices, because, and that's why I reflected on all those slides. The economy is in a very good position. It has not been this way for a long time, where you find the deficit is going down, exports are growing, imports are coming down. They've never been there for a long, I don't remember, maybe 1964 to 69 is when the economy was where it is today. So unless it is global situation driving, not domestic. Domestic, no. And that is why the Kenya shilling is appreciating against the regional currencies, Uganda. And when a currency appreciates against another currency by 12-15%, that is a very high appreciation. And that shows the fundamentals. So we don't anticipate any significant movement. And that's why we are bold enough to say, let's remove this notice and absorb the costs that might have gone over the last 2 months of the price to deposits. Yes, Brian.
My name is Brian. I work with the National Broadcast ABC. Couple of questions.
When you say that, you know, the current exchange rate, all this capital expenditure that the government is embarking on, a lot of them are long term. In the medium term, the short term, are we likely to put the economy, you know, into some heated pace going forward? And the other question I want to hear from you, when you look at the political economy vis-a-vis the business economy, how can we divorce the two whereby we have an economy which is business-oriented, moving forward, whereas we can also have the political economy, you know, existing somehow?
Thank you very much, O'Brien. Three powerful questions. The first one, O'Brien said, James, I don't agree with you because we are paying duty for the roads. We are not paying duty because of high interest rates. Remember, Kenya is enjoying, if you look at the RIBOR, Kenya is enjoying some of the best interest rates any emerging economy can enjoy. We're talking about 5.6 to 6.8 on the 2.7 billion euros. Essentially, Kenya is paying high interest rates because it's borrowing huge amount. And it's borrowing huge amount because it is doing massive infrastructure development. I think as a country we need to accept that if we need to reach the aspiration of Vision 2030, we stipulated that what we shall invest on heavily is infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Infrastructure is expensive. If you look at Equity Bank, over the last 3 years, we have spent 15 billion shillings to redo our IT capability. Again, that now has given Equity a capability to do telecom, payments, and banking, in addition to investment bank. And I think Kenya is doing the same. To go to the next level, Kenya needed to generate significant. You will imagine Kenya was generating 1,200 megawatts. The aspiration is now to produce an additional 5,000 to reach 6,000 megawatts. But you can see the benefits. As soon as the projects are completed, we got a 30% reduction in cost of power. I saw another promised reduction of power with the other 581 megawatts being generated this year. So essentially, it is upfront cost of investment that Kenya is having. But we are separating investment and reward. Reward will come 2-3 years later when the projects are finished. Like the way we are reaping the benefits of power. The second thing is, if you look at the size of the economy, these investments will leave Kenya 70 billion US dollar economy once the Standard Gauge Railway and the power generation plants are completed. That economy, if it continues to grow at 7% or achieves the 7% growth rate, it will have no problem of managing the repayment of its debt. It is not the old Kenya that will pay these debts. It's the new Kenya, developed and brought up by the infrastructure, that will be paying those debts. And that's why there is always a grace period. So I don't see any pressure on debt repayment. And that's why if you look at the ratio, despite the massive, almost doubling of our debt, if you remember over the last 3 years, almost doubling our debt, our repayment hasn't changed significantly. Our ratio of debt to GDP have not changed. We have just moved from 46 to 50. Why? Because the economy is that much bigger. In terms of exports, again, it is imperative that we realize that while the government has the pressure of exchange rate, what really drives the economy is the private sector. And the question is, what is the optimum price between the private sector and the government? And that's where the balancing act. The farmers would like higher payment for their tea, which with stable prices, they can only get if the exchange rate is aligning to other exchange rates. So essentially, that is the debate. I think you raised another very big question about economy and politics. You notice that in Kenya, our politics have always been very strong. It is the biggest sector in our economy. I hope one day the economy will be bigger than politics. Such that it is economy or economics that will be driving politics. At the moment, politics drive economy. And we see economic issues using political lenses. If we divorce the two, Kenya will do much, much better, such that we don't politicize economy. Economy be allowed to be driven by microeconomic environment. Personally, I feel the challenges that Kenya is going through are not fundamental, but they are what one would call sentiments. And if you look what drives sentiments of our economy, it's a political economy that drives sentiments. So if you drive an economy on political sentiments rather than fundamentals, then what you do is you misread the allocation of resources. People are holding, for instance, we are now saying, let's hold investment. And why are we holding back on investment? Not because the fundamentals have a problem, but because the political sentiments have created a situation that we are all responding to. So and worse off is the international community. Give Brian back the mic. He wants to do a follow-up intervention.
Thank you. This is also a follow-up I want to find out from you. When you look at the Kenyan economy, you see that, for example, some of the most critical sectors of the economy, like agriculture or manufacturing, you see that growth is very, very small. And sectors like the manufacturing sector actually has not been growing at the desired rate. And we know for sure there is no economy in the world that ever grew without taxation. When you talk about the cost of power coming down, investment in infrastructure, then how comes we are not seeing the same on the manufacturing side? Because we see now a reciprocal of the same, whereby we see a lot of investment in the manufacturing sector. So how comes this is not happening? The other point I want to find out from you, when you say that the investors are getting jittery because of the raised political tones in the country, have you had any discussions or any engagements with investors who are planning to come into the country, but they had to hold back their investment, or they were forced to go into what we call wait and see mode because of what is happening in the country?
Thank you very much. Two very good questions. The first one is James. You are saying we're investing. Why is the country not transforming? We are having power, having roads, we are having railways. Why is the manufacturing not taking off? Brian, this is a very interesting question. It's a question of how long is the gestation period of industrialization? Let's look at a country like China. China has been on the industrialization path now for the last 30 years, really eating, and yet it hasn't become an industrialized nation. Industrialization takes a pretty long time. If you look at countries like Brazil and Argentina and Mexico, I've been on this for nearly 40 years, trying to get it right. Occasionally gets it right, then there is a relapse, and they go back to an essential. And we can only hope that Kenya will get it right with all the ingredients that draws industrialization. If you look at power, and it's good you have talked about power, our aspiration is to have 6,000 megawatts of land. Although we have been investing, we still of about 2,200. So essentially, we haven't reached the scale of power that could draw industrialization into the country. We still need to do 4,000, 5,000 megawatts for you to really see industries getting attracted. We need to reduce our power. We have managed to reduce our power from 24 cents US dollars per kilowatt to 18 US dollars. We need to bring that to anything around 10 for you to be really competitive. Yes, it is true, we're investing massively in building roads, land. It is true, but the only major road we have done is Thika Road. We still have to do more than Thika Road for the whole economy to be attractive. We need to complete the road to Moyale to connect with Ethiopia. We need to complete the road to South Sudan. Land. If we really wanted a tree that would give you shade today, we ought to have planted it 20 years ago when we were with you in school. If you plant a tree today, the shade is for your son. That is true of economics. There is no magic and there is no immediate result we will see. Economies transform over a very long period of time. We have to continue doing the right things. Continue doing the right things. And it's not about Vision 2030, remember, is a 25-year dream. And we're saying within 25 years, these things will start turning, the fundamentals will be right, the foundation will be laid, and even at 2030, we're not saying we'll be an industrialized country. We're still saying we'll be a middle income economy. My hope is that as we industrialize, because we try to industrialize, that Kenya becomes a service industry. And I'm very excited, O'Brien, that Kenya today is the biggest exporter of technology in Africa. A very interesting development that, and the biggest company exporting software in Kenya is Graphsilicon. So if we have 3 or 4 Graphsilicons, and it's slowly emerging, we'll start seeing that we may almost leapfrog from heavy manufacturing to the service, and you can take a different route. You become a service industry and develop like countries like Switzerland. Switzerland developed on services, not really manufacturing. There's a possibility Kenya might follow that path. But it's also good if, Alex, you can pull out an appetite. That's something that might be missing out about the attractiveness Kenya has offered and how attractive it is to the private sector. The impact might not have been felt, but look at these brands. These are multinationals that have recently, over the last 3 years, made Kenya the headquarters for Sub-Saharan Africa. They were all based in South Africa, including Citibank. Look at Citibank, who are based in South Africa. Quora was based in, they are now headquarters for Africa is Nairobi. Group, this is another group. These again, none of these is more than 2 years old as a regional headquarter for Africa. Look at General Electric. I think General Electric is even this year. Cisco is last year. This is the making of a great nation. This is the making of a nation that the world is responding to. You could imagine what will happen, let's say, in 10 years to come, where these companies will be. I believe General Electric will have created a factory here to refurbish. The second aspect that maybe have also been lost, and that's why it is important to provide the data, because most of the problem with political position is that there's no data, there's nothing that supports it. But we in this room can argue with fact. If you look right now, America has now jumped to be the 4th biggest importer of Kenyan exports, the textile industry has started taking root. And we know the reason why the standard gauge railway that is being extended to Naivasha is because a mega global textile factory is being constructed there. Again, suddenly, Kenya might then become the biggest textile exporter, competing with Ethiopia in the next 3 years out of Africa. And you can see how much then the economy become diversified. Services will become big, textile will become big. We are fairly big in agro-processing, and then tourism becomes big, diaspora remittances become big, and then financial sector becomes big, telecommunications, then you start seeing an economy taking shape. But I think as Kenyans, we need to have patience. A tree takes 20 years to give shape, particularly if it is an indigenous tree. The second question of Brian was on
The engagement with investors out there.
Okay, very good. Now, yes, as chairman of Vision 2030, constantly meeting investors who want to set their operations in Kenya. We also invest in Kenya. Also, as a listed company, with nearly 42% of our investors being international investors, these questions come. And one of the biggest concerns, like now, was microeconomic stability, the volatility of the interest rates and the exchange rate, because there are consequences of this. When high interest rates go up, default rates tend to set in. Investments decline within a country. So these are huge concerns, and that is why we're very excited when we see stability in the macroeconomic environment, because stability in inflation, exchange rate, and interest rates allows planning and predictability of investment horizons. And that is why investors are very keen, particularly on macroeconomic environment. To be honest, the only thing that really keeps on me awake as chairman of Vision 2030 is national value systems. Our national value systems are not keeping tightened with the investment we are making to transform the economy. And they are manifesting themselves in many forms, including what is the biggest debate about fiscal discipline, how we are spending tax money, public money, and the rest. All those are big concerns. But it's nothing about sector. It is about the national value system. This country needs to get it right. What is acceptable within the nation and what is not acceptable. But and I think the government should be there in dealing with the symptoms and the signs. I think all of us as Kenyans, as a people, as a community, we need to hold ourselves and hold each other to national values that would allow us to have the coherence as a society. There are many vices, things that we keep on talking, decisions. And that's why we should give investors reality. We should give investors these rights as opposed to expressing sentiments that can't be supported, because they act on those ones. They believe in them. And then once they believe in them, we are shooting ourselves as a nation. And that's why it is important to separate politics and economy, so that politics don't shoot the economy. While it's a disservice to ourselves. That's how we put it. And to our children. Remember, it is economy that gives our people opportunities. So if politics shoots economy, then we are shooting opportunities for our people. We are shooting opportunities of transformation of an economy. Very good questions from Brian. Another angle of argument. If not, then I want to take this opportunity then to appeal to our customers. That now that the interest rates are predictable, they don't need to adjust their repayment installment. They have already got used to the current interest rates. They have been planning. It is time for them then to come and be partner to realize their investment dreams and aspirations. And we are really glad that we could do this for our customers as an appreciation of their very continued support. And once again, want to thank the government for quickly reacting on what we believed all along was out of step with what the fundamentals were suggesting. And the low interest rates are really good for the economy, and particularly for the investments we should do. Thank you very much, and glad we did.
Okay. Not that you don't need to. Okay. Okay,